So much, Leanne, and thanks for staying with us, Shamila Batoy. And just getting back to, this notion of sometimes the NPA doesn't really get its act together in terms of following through with prosecutions. And AfriForum has been rather vocal on this front, and because they threaten public prosecutions, they say that, in a sense, is forcing the NPA to really follow up and follow through on some cases. Your view on that?
I think perhaps in the past there was a need to force the NPA in certain instances to prosecute. In my view, that need is not necessary anymore because the NPA will do what it is required to do. So, AfriForum has a role to play and they will play that role. But certainly we are prosecuting cases not because we are being forced to by AfriForum, but because there's sufficient evidence and we need to proceed with cases. Sometimes cases don't actually happen as quickly as people would like to. And that's for various reasons. I think people don't realize that, the vacancy issue in the NPA is a real issue. We have lost almost 700 prosecutors from 2015 out of a capacity of about 3,500. So we have a vacancy level of over 20%. And 25% in the asset forfeiture unit, in the specialized commercial crimes unit. And so often we just simply aren't able to move as quickly. And the demands on the NPA are huge. So, AfriForum may have one case or a couple of cases, and then there's a lot of pressure because things are not moving as fast. And then when we do something, it's as if we've reacted to that pressure. But it's not the case. We are actually dealing with cases because that is our responsibility.
And in terms of prioritizing these cases, and one of the things that I've always harped on is those case files that came through from the TRC and why the NPA hasn't acted on that, and why people have been forced, in some instances, families who have the wherewithal and the resources to do so have had to do that themselves.
Yes.
What is the NPA's story with regard to those TRC files?
Yeah, this is a very complicated issue. And look, we've had the case, the Rodriguez matter that was in court recently. And what emerged in that, case is that there was pressure at various levels for the NPA not to prosecute cases. And so we do have a unit in the office that is working very, very closely with the representatives of certain families of deceased persons in order to fast track these cases. But within the NPA...
What do you mean by fast track, and which cases? Because the NPA, since the TRC concluded its work, hasn't prosecuted not a single one of those cases.
As I said, there were many constraints at the time to actually deal with these matters. And I think people can be justifiably unhappy about the way in which these matters were dealt with. And so, we've had inquests that we've reopened recently, looking at the Neil Agate case, the Hafaji matter, where these matters have been reopened. But as the NPA, what we have decided is that there were, I think, about 69 people that died in detention. And so in the NPA, we are looking at these holistically and saying we shouldn't only be looking at those cases where families have the means to actually put some kind of pressure on us, but that we should be looking at these 69 deaths in detention.
300 files were handed over to the NPA.
Yes, there were a number of files that were handed to the NPA. And so we are now, since I've taken office, and we are trying to actually, these cases are old cases, and so they come with their own challenges.
But that's part of the criticism,
yes,
where it is said that given what we know now of some of the pressure that was brought to bear on the NPA at various points in, the lifespan of these cases, that the NPA is deliberately not investigating these cases.
I think that's an unfair criticism. Knowing what I know at the moment, I think that's unfair. I think there was a lot of pressure on the NPA not to actually prosecute. The NPA, I think there were things that the NPA could have done differently. We must accept that. And so, we are now working very closely with the legal advisors of certain families, and we are looking at support. They're also providing support with regard to investigative capacity, working together with the SAPs so that we could actually bring cases not just against the foot soldiers, but really try to move to those most responsible for those atrocities that were committed during the apartheid era.
And as we wrap this up, I have to ask you about the Ramaphosa leaks, and I'm sure you've seen that. And your name has come up on that, and it says that $1.75 million was paid to you on the 14th of March, 2018. What's your response to that?
Well, I'm not sure whether I should dignify that with a response, actually.
I think it's important, given the position that you occupy and given the perception that we spoke about, that's so important about an NPA that is able to do its job independently. I think it's very important that you do respond to it.
It's utter rubbish. It's a lie.
So it's a total fabrication.
Absolutely.
So with regard to your relationship with the president, is there anything in that relationship that would warrant this type of lie, as you put it?
Absolutely nothing. So, when people, I don't know why people do this, and I don't want to speculate about it, and I will not be distracted by it. I think these are tactics to try to distract you from doing your work. And this is the start of it. There's going to be a lot more. And I realized, I have to fortify myself against these attacks. When I was interviewed, I said, this is a Shark Tank. And it seems like the attacks have started. But this will not distract us from our important work.
Well, Shamila Batoy, thanks so much for stopping by. Our National Director of Public Prosecutions, Shamila Batoy, and speaking to us about the various cases that they are looking at, and also the role of the NPA in what is unfolding in South Africa at the moment, be it at the commissions of inquiry or with regard to some of the flare-ups that we are seeing in the country right now. Let's take a break.